Hello. There is going to be a full moon on July 3rd, 2023. Now, last week I did a video all about the new moon. So if you want to see what I said about the new moon, you can hop on over to that video. And what the new moon does is it plants the seeds for what's going to happen in our nation. And then the full moon will reveal the results. They will come to fruition in the full moon. And I want to remind everybody that I practice sidereal Vedic astrology, which means I am looking at where the planets are actually placed in the sky. And let me just tell you, this full moon is going to reveal a lot that's going on. Some secrets in places the world leaders are not letting out to the public, and that is going to be revealed. Now, people can always tell the truth or not tell the truth. But one thing I know for sure is that the stars or the planets tell the truth. And we look to them when we want to see what is really going on in mundane astrology. So as I said, the full moon is on July 3rd, 2023. And the rising sign, the sign that was coming up on the horizon at the time of the full moon, is Cancer. And Cancer is very concerned with homeland security, our home and our families, and the United States, because that's where we are. We're looking at the United States full moon. So we're very concerned, it being the rising sign, with our country and what's going on in our country. Now, the moon rules Cancer, and it deposits over here to Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is all about truth and justice and laws that protect us. And the moon is in the nakshatra of Purva Ashada. And Purva Ashada is very, very concerned about the truth and justice and making a stance. And it even deals with declarations of war. But the war that I think that we are looking at or declaring is a war on the truth not being revealed and not being told. We want justice, we want truth, and we want people to be held accountable. And that is what this is revealing. Now, the other thing we want to look at is the depositor of Sagittarius, which is Jupiter, where that goes. And that goes up here into Aries. And so in this chart, the moon is in the 6th house, which is Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, and the 9th house is Pisces, ruled by Jupiter. And the 9th house is, again, about truth and justice. And Jupiter is depositing over here to the 10th house. Now, what's the 10th house? The 10th house is our government and our leaders. It also can be organizations, corporations as well. And it is there with Jupiter, but with Rahu. Now, Rahu expands things, and so does Jupiter. So we are very concerned about this truth, but you know what? It's not being told. The truth is being covered up. And we have Uranus here. Now, Uranus is the great awakener. And so what's happening is that people are beginning to waken up to what is really going on with our world leaders and our government and the media. And I will show you how I get that. So we have Aries here, which is the ruler of the 10th house in our government. And the 5th house, which is Scorpio, the 5th house is politics. And both of these houses are ruled by Mars, and they deposit over here to Leo, which is the 2nd house. And Leo pertains to our leaders. And it is in the nakshatra of Magha. Mars is in the nakshatra of Magha, and Magha is about our leaders, our ancestors, our kings and queens, the leaders of our country. And the depositor of Mars, which is the sun, goes over here, right here, and that is Gemini, which happens to be the 12th house of this chart. And it is with Mercury. And Mercury is the ruler of the 3rd house. And the 3rd house is our communications and our media. And Mercury also represents communications. And so Mercury is there in its own sign in Gemini. Gemini also represents communications. So what's going on? 12th house. We are not being told the truth about our world leaders and what's happening. And the media is not telling us the truth. So the way we look at the truth, if the truth is being told or not, is we look at the 9th house, the 8th house, as well as the 2nd house, because that's your voice, right? That's what's coming out of your mouth, and the communications. So we have Jupiter, which represents the 10th house, which is in the 10th house, represents our government, and ruler of the 9th house. The 9th house is the truth, depositing to the 10th house of our government. Mars depositing to the 2nd house, leaders depositing to the 12th house. The 12th house is things that are hidden. It's what's going on behind the scenes. It's scandals. And the other interesting thing is that the 2nd house also rules money. And so there is some cover up regarding money and foreign affairs, because the 9th and 12th house also represent foreigners. So there is something going on with our leadership involving money in foreign affairs that's being covered up. Now, I said we look at the 8th house also. And the very interesting thing that I see about this 8th house is, this is the 8th house, is Saturn is there. And Saturn represents our government, represents politicians and politics in the 8th house. And he is retrograde. The 8th house is scandals. It is money, big money, behind the scenes, things that are going on. And it is also the house of rejuvenation. So we have Saturn there, retrograde, which means the truth about things that are happening with our government are coming out. But the thing of it is it is also, Saturn represents karma. And being retrograde, karmic lessons are going to have to be paid for this cover up, right? So we know that censorship is alive and well. And so how can you protect yourself during this time? How can you find out the truth when it's not being told? When the media is covering up the truth, they're trying to divert us with other things, that we're trying to get our attention away from what's really going on in the world and with our world leaders. The way you get to the truth is you have to look elsewhere for your information. You cannot depend on the typical media and channels that are being used as a propaganda machine for our world leaders. You can't depend on them telling you the truth. And especially the media organizations that take money from special interest groups. And do your research and find out about that. But you know what I say? I say it's time for us to take, say, a media break, a news break. And one of the ways you can deal with that is to stop watching the news for a couple of weeks. And you know what? If you do that, I did that. And when I went back to watch the news, nothing had really changed. It's the same old story. So you have to dig deeper, find other sources to get your information, the truth about what's really going on. And when you do that, as with the law of attraction, you'll get your mind off of all these things that we don't want to have happen with our government and our nation, and start focusing in on the good. And what is the good in this? Well, the good in this, is that the moon, which is the masses and the ruler of the chart, our consciousness, the consciousness of the American citizens, going here to Sagittarius, the sign of justice and laws, in the nakshatra of justice and laws and telling the truth. It's an opportunity for people who are telling the truth and have a love for our country and want to see it thrive and want to see it flourish to come forth. They haven't been able to, because this is the 6th house that causes obstructions and delays to this. But there is something that is going to be happening in September and October that is going to be extremely impactful with our world leaders and with our nation. And this karmic debt that I've been talking about here is going to come due. You can run, but you cannot hide. and the truth will set you free. And what I believe is going to happen is when that karmic debt comes due, the truth is going to start coming out. People are going to start awakening to it. They're going to demand that justice be served, that criminals do not keep getting away with committing crimes, and that the nullification of innocent people is going to stop. So that is coming due in September and October, and I'll be doing a video about that. But this new moon is very impactful, or full moon, sorry, is very impactful because it's setting the stage for what's going to happen. And the planetary energies in July, I know this starts in the beginning of July, are actually for a lot of individuals are going to be very good. But I think for the world leaders, it's going to be very challenging. So the way we can help shift the consciousness and allow people to come forth who are good people, who stand up for the truth, who want to uncover what's been going on, because this has been going, the corruption with our government has been going on for a very long time, actually since the 60s. And I've seen some charts of some very prominent people who are in the government, because not everybody, remember, not everybody in the government or in the media speak the lies. Not everybody there has selfish intentions to use their political office for their own good, and they don't care what happens to the country. There are good people in the media that want to tell the truth. There are good people in our government who want to serve our nation, want to serve our people, and want America to thrive. And those people are going to start coming forth as the karmic lessons, the karmic debt gets paid in September and October. So this is actually an exciting time because Aries, where Jupiter is, Rahu and Uranus, it's all new beginnings. We are beginning to see the beginning of a new birth, right? And one of the other reasons why we haven't had justice is, I want to point that out right here with Ketu in Libra. And Ketu takes things away. It's also the things that are hidden in the shadows. And Libra is a natural sign of justice. Its symbol is the scales of justice. And with Ketu being there, justice is being denied. But guess what? Ketu's not always going to be there. He's been there for about the past year and a half, and that's where the eclipse patterns have been happening. But he is going to shift in November. Yes, in November. He is going to shift over here into Virgo. And I believe when that happens, and we're going to have an eclipse actually in October before that happens, because it'll be the last eclipse involving this, but it is going to be out of sign. That eclipse is going to be out of sign. When that happens, we're going to see the end of this lack of justice, this lack of the truth being told. We're going to be able to get to the bottom of things and find solutions. And I've already looked at 2024. Actually, I'll be doing the predictions on that. And I also have a video talking about it that if you want, you can purchase it. I'll have more details on that later. But we, I believe, are going to elect a strong leader in 2024. So there is hope for our country. There is hope for our nation. There is hope for the American people. I know we have a lot of problems, but if we stand together and don't let the media and the powers, the people who are in power and control, divide us and separate us, if we stand together and unite, we can get through this, and we will get through this. You know, Brene Brown did a book on leadership, and in that book, she talks about the different styles of leadership. And one of those styles of leadership that's toxic, actually, is using fear, scaring people. The leaders who scare people, because they know when people are afraid, they can control them. They will do whatever they want them to. And we saw that with COVID, and we are seeing that again. Whenever somebody in power tries to instill fear on you, be very much aware. because the truth of all that, the truth of what COVID was all about is coming out as well. I mean, all this truth is coming out. It's pretty amazing. So be aware. Do not fall prey to that. That is how you stay strong. That is how you keep the people who have an alternative agendas. You keep them from influencing you. And I believe if you start with yourself and you become aware of this, as more and more people are waking up to it, we can change the consciousness. We can shift it back to the light. You know, the other thing about this is too, with these planets being here, as I mentioned in my Vedic New Year, it was for 2023. I talked about the white nakshatras, and they span from Sagittarius on up here to Pisces. And you see there's a lot of planets here in the white nakshatras, and what they are all about is the play between the dark and the light. But the light always wins. And so the way the light wins is by the dark being uncovered and exposed. And that's what's going on now, especially with this Pluto return, which I also did a couple videos on the Pluto return. You might want to check them out. But we are getting back to our roots. Pluto is cleaning us up. So is Saturn, karma. Saturn is cleaning us up, rejuvenating, reinventing us, America, and our truth, because the United States moon sits here as well. And I'm going to be talking more about that in the coming videos, especially when I talk about what's going to be happening with the world the United States in September and October. Okay? So if I may, I just want to sum up and say, it's not all doom and gloom. I know it feels like it. I know, but we are going through a rebirth. And let me just tell you, when Pluto does a return or he goes over a chart or planet in your natal chart, it is gut-wrenching. It is the most impactful thing you'll ever experience in your life. And that is what we are going through now. And the other thing I might mention is that the United States is running its Rahu planetary period, and it was running that same planetary period when it was founded. And if you think back on what was going on when the United States was founded, with the Britain trying to rule and control us, and we were rebelling against Britain because of unfair taxation without representation, it kind of mirrors a little bit of what's going on now. But America persevered, and it got its independence and its freedom, and we have been a great nation. And Pluto, the natal Pluto of the United States chart, sits in Uttara Ashada, and Uttara Ashada is about truth and justice and freedom, and it is also a very, very strong foundation. So if you want to build something with a very strong foundation, have planets in Uttara Ashada, and it will happen. So the United States is very resilient. It is very strong. And I feel that right now, while we're going through all this chaos and we're seeing what's happening and the corruption that's been going on in our government for years, since the 60s, and it's all coming to light, and it's going to continue to come to light. We are going to, if we don't let the politics, if we don't let the media separate us, if we bind together, we can get through this, and we will heal, and we will be a strong nation. Remember, divided you fall, united you stand. The powers of the dark want to divide us so that we'll fall. But I think we're resilient enough not to let them do that. And we're not stupid. The American people are not stupid. And if there are people who see the truth and they still don't believe in it, don't worry. Just bless them and move on, but keep your consciousness on the truth. So there you have it. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and click all notifications so you don't miss any of my new videos when they come out. And visit me at www.michellebond007.com, where you can go and sign up for my free newsletter so you'll always be informed. And if you want to see how these planetary energies are going to play out in your life specifically, then book an appointment. Again, that is michellebond007.com. Be inspired, be empowered, and I will see you next time.